Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the moments that you've been all waiting, that I've been waiting too, because it's always a great pleasure and an honor to be introducing to you the CEO, chairman of the board, and co-founder of the Corsair Group, Mr. Jussi Interview. Thank you for taking the time in your busy schedule. And my first question to you is, how are you doing on the ground over there now that the final sprint has begun?
Oh, thank you so much. We're doing great. And before we get started on that one, I want to say I really love the vibe you guys have on the call, starting from the opening music. So it's really great to see you guys, and I really like the energy and the love and the passion and the vibe that is emitting from this group and this call. So thank you very much for putting that together. To answer your question, we're doing great. I have personally now, after wrapping up the preparation and the event week that we had here about a month ago, and which was then followed by a few international trips, including spending some time in the United States. I've been now able to be back here in the office and really focusing on catching up with so many different areas of our work and business, and to do everything in our power to achieve still many of the goals that we have for this month before the year ends. And that being said, I think we're gonna be able to see a lot of interesting progress happening still in the next couple of weeks. But I'm doing great. Thank you.
Wonderful. I can see that you're shining. Thank you so much. So today we have 67 active partners, no customers. This is really a call for those who are here with us on the journey, maybe recently joined, maybe been here for a couple of years. And I really wanted to take a different approach for your intervention, as we've been, actually a lot of people here were at the Vision in Bangkok. I was very happy to have more than 30 people from Actors of Change that traveled to Asia. And then you had a series of global calls in the different languages, commenting on this great announcement. So if that's okay with you, I wanted to really start with what drives everything forward, which is our collective vision as partners, or individual visions, which you could witness on this board, your personal vision, but most importantly, the vision for the Corsair Group and the way that you've been spearheading this vision. So I would like to ask you a question that probably you haven't been asked before. 2040, what is your vision now that Corsair is 20 years old?
Well, that's a great question. Now, as you might be aware, our sort of a little bit more shorter term, earlier target is to grow the company to a state where we would be able to eliminate from the environment over 1 billion kilos of plastic waste annually, which would then result in the creation and production of about 1 billion liters of pyrolysis oil per year. That's basically something that we are aiming to achieve at around 2030. That's our ambitious goal for that, and I think it's still very much doable. Now, thinking about 2040, I would say that our target at that stage would be to at least triple that target, that 1 billion liter production during that next 10 years. The reason why the expansion will be much more faster at that time is because when we think about our factories and how they are all being built, like we've seen now, for example, here in Bangkok, we basically have on the same address, on the same area, now altogether 3 factories. In the facility in Finland, where we are now developing our operations and expanding, inside that one building, we could actually have as many as 5 full-scale, standard-size Corsair factories. So it really means that once we get to that point, let's talk about now the production of oil, that 1 billion liters in annual production, expanding from there to 3 billion liters will be much more faster than getting to that initial 1 billion. Does that make sense? So therefore, I think that if we want to put some targets and sort of share the vision from the business point of view, and I'll talk about the other aspects of our work and the implications of that as well. But purely from the business, in 2040, our target would be to grow the company's annual production of oil to 3 billion liters per year, which would mean that we as a company would at that point generate over $3 billion of revenue, of income from the oil sales alone annually, which would also result then in the profit of about $1.5 billion per year. For a company with that kind of numbers, hopefully at that time with very limited amount of debt, but instead having all these assets in our balance sheet, would put the company on the stock market to have a valuation typically in a range of this scale to be somewhere between $30 to $60 billion. So that also gives you an idea of where we see the company growing in the future. Initially, our target is to list the company on the stock market in the coming years for around $2 to $3 billion, and then grow it from there to this 30 to 60 billion scale. So there's quite a lot of opportunities involved in that. And obviously, we're looking to build a strong and very profitable business. Now, what else does that mean? Aside from the money. And I believe personally that if you want to solve any problem in the world, especially something in the scale as the global plastic waste crisis is, you're not going to solve that with donations. You're not going to solve that with charity. You're not going to solve that by government printing more money and just paying to keep something going on because of different types of grants and subsidies. Those are not going to be there to solve a problem which is growing day by day. Maybe if you have a problem which is sort of stagnated, let's say that there would be a fixed amount of plastic waste and that's it, and it's never going to grow, it's never going to come back. Okay, maybe you could do a good work on solving it by having those things that I mentioned earlier. But because this is an ongoing problem, it's a problem that is expanding, it's a problem that is growing. The demand for plastic and therefore the projection for the production of new plastic, as we all know by now, is expected to triple in the next 30 years. So in order for us to solve something like that, the only effective way to get that done is by building a business around it. That's it. So I think we are, and I've said this many times, in a very unique situation where we are truly able to combine the capitalism together with environmentalism and philanthropy. And the reality is that the more we grow the business, the more financially viable and the more financially successful we become, the more impact we will have on the environment and on the lives of millions of people around the world. Now, saying that, let's come back to what I said before. If we are able to reach our targets for 2040 and being able to produce this 3 billion liters of oil annually, that would also mean that at that moment we are removing from the environment more than 4 billion kilos of plastic waste per year. If you use the global averages, that basically means that we as a community, as a company, would basically be removing the annual plastic waste footprint generated by approximately 100 million people per year. Now, you can look at those numbers in two different ways. You can look at those numbers saying, that's a massive impact, which it obviously is. And getting into those type of numbers would be absolutely amazing. And I truly, full-heartedly believe that we will be able to achieve those goals and much, much more. But at the same time, there's the other way of looking at it, is that that's nowhere near enough. If we think about it, that reaching those type of targets, and we're now able to remove 4 billion kilos of plastic from the environment per year, well, the United States alone as a country produces about 50 billion kilos per year. So that just puts, again, while we can think about the great achievement we're doing, it just puts, again, the whole thing into perspective, is that it's not enough. And that's why we will never stop on expanding our operations. We will continue to grow. And as you can all hopefully make sense from these numbers, is that even those type of performance is still just the very, very beginning of our journey. And when we look at this from the financial point of view and from the environmental point of view, maybe the most important point of view is the impact that we can have on other people's lives by doing it. First of all, if we and when we are in a situation in 2040 that we are generating $3 billion on annual revenue from the sales of the oil alone, there will be a lot of money within our organization, within our company, that can be used to help the people that are truly in the need of our support. The millions and millions of lives that we will be able to change and touch around the world by going into the poorest communities where people are living in extreme poverty, helping them to gain access to housing, to fresh water, clean facilities, helping them to earn new income, providing them opportunities by engaging themselves now in the cleaning of plastic from the environment. All of these things that you've seen us now kind of scratching the surface, things that we're doing with the fishermen, things that we're doing with the community here in Thailand. These are all kind of a proof of work. These are just proof of concept that we are looking to take all over the world. And with having at the same time this increasing amount of revenue that is coming to our company, we're going to be able to grow all of these operations exponentially each and every year. So that's something that I'm personally very passionate about. And on the same note, coming back to, and we're still on the same topic of 2040, with $3 billion on annual revenue generated from the oil sales alone, and I'm not even taking into account the gate fees and everything else that is there, from this alone, 10%, meaning $300 million per year, would be channeled into the buyback program of buying the CSR and CSR 25 plastic credits from the market. I mean, you can do your own expectations and numbers on what's that going to mean for the value development of CSR and CSR 25 on the market eventually, when there is a limited supply and this increasing annual demand that is created from funds coming completely outside of our general business operation involving the tokenomics and the network, but simply money that's used from the oil revenue to buy back these tokens from the market at any given value or asking price. $300 million a year What that will eventually create, it's going to create a whole new group of people that are suddenly now, if they haven't already through the involvement in the Amplivo and Corsair Connect business, by their involvement in the early stages of the CSR plastic credit, they are now, hopefully, with their holdings, becoming close to a situation or reaching a situation where they are now starting to touch financial freedom. And that will allow them now to allocate their time and energy on doing things that they're passionate about, doing things that they care about, helping other people, and helping us to grow our environmental impact as we continue to scale up and expand our operations worldwide. That's my vision for 2040.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to add my own words to complement this vision so that we can make the bridge with the way we talk about this vision in the group. What you said about the scale of the impact that we can have, that is enormous, and at the same time only a drop in the ocean, makes me even more motivated to do the work, because we are working for the future, for living a cleaner world for our children, but their children and their children. We're here to see the new paradigm where we evolve the consciousness of our society from a society that destroys its own environment to a society that doesn't destroy its own environment. So that's in itself worth it. But transforming the world by using business as a force for good, mixing this business, environmental, and philanthropy you mentioned, this I call conscious capitalism. So thank you for leading the way, because you are offering all of us to partake in such an adventure. And we are really connecting to the grander vision for us to stay motivated and to feel that we are really making a difference, and at least leading by example.
Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful. So I received a question from the community now that we are moving into 2026. Last time, you guys upgraded the plastic credits to comply with the new regulations that were coming out of the Philippines. We wanted to know if there is a plan to also upgrade the product, or with the CSR 26 be the same on the characteristical point of view than the CSR 25?
Very good question. And that really is the beauty and actually one of the driving reasons why we choose to move into the annually minted plastic credit model. Because we are seeing now regulations being developed, regulations being implemented around the world by different countries. And I believe, as I have said before, that in the next 12 to 24 months, we're going to start to see more countries independently creating and launching their own regulations involving extended producer responsibility and packaging, especially involving plastic, but also global regulations coming from the organizations like United Nations. And in order for us to be able to potentially adjust our approach to make sure that we are ahead of the curve, which we always would like to be. But if that's not possible, then at least we can adjust our strategies according to those regulations, is what's possible when we have the annually issued CSR plastic credits. And as you rightfully said, we obviously did already the first set of changes and add-on sort of upgrades for the CSR 25, which is now including the time-based and geographical-based information on it. And this will be also now continued with CSR 26. We don't have any specific other functions added into it. Instead, what we will probably do is we're going to expand on those already existing functions, but from the character point of view, it will operate in the same way. And this is very important when we start to look at the current direction which countries like the Philippines and others have taken, where they would like to have this national work being included or geographically identifiable work being included. That's why CSR 25 is very unique. At the same time, I want to highlight, so that there is no misunderstanding, that doesn't take any value away from the original CSR, because we have to keep in mind that at the moment, all plastic removal from anywhere on the planet is good and equally important. And this is I think the best example from this is plastic in the ocean. Like when you take plastic out from the ocean, it's quite difficult to say whose plastic is that, right? At the same time, the Western countries like United States and Canada and European Union countries for decades were shipping their plastics all over Asia. And even in our operations, where we on a daily basis are out there on the landfill here in Thailand collecting plastic waste, we come across with packaging of products which are not sold here in Asia, which is clearly plastic that was delivered and brought here from somewhere else, from United States or from Europe. So therefore, when we look at the general approach, which is with all of the global regulations, at the moment, at least for the coming years, any recovery from anywhere in the world is considered vital. And that's why the original CSR is very well positioned for that as well. But as we move forward in the future and we look at something that will bring even more value to the end user, that can be achieved by having the geographical and the time-based work identified in more detail in the credit.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful, and we always have to make sense of these concepts, because for many people it's quite a new concept. Although we have been sharing more and more, especially with Hesam, who you are going to meet soon, that the parallel and the precedent with the carbon credit markets is very important in making us confident that the world will repeat something that has worked right there in the last 10 years. And we already see the signals on the market with the UN, with the World Bank, with the Philippines. Are you aware of any other latest developments on the plastic credit market beyond these, well, massive enough clues?
Yeah, I mean, South Africa obviously has already started on this. I actually had my problem is always that I kind of go and talk a little bit too early on these things, but I actually had last week, at the end of last week, we had a call with a person from the South African government, and we spoke with them and his team about the implementation of CSR plastic credit and how that could help the government's targets on first of all, reducing the amount of plastic waste generated in the country annually, but most importantly, how that could help to clean up the environment, which they have massive problems all over the country at the moment. And again, it was so, how would I say, warm and nice to kind of see again that the reaction from a high up in the government was extremely excited and welcoming to learn more and to understand how CSR plastic credit could help the entire country on their targets on achieving this, and to bring more value into the level and the stage of plastic waste collection by being able to monetize and put a monetary value now on the garbage. which would have this massive impact into the people in the lowest earning classes in the country that could now engage in the cleaning because there's first time ever now a value on the plastic waste. So that's another example, the types of conversations that we're having right now. And I'll just mention that because this was a very, very recent one. But the conversations that we're having at the moment is with the highest levels of governments and organizations. You saw the announcement that we made at the gala event about how Corsair is now recognized as a sustainable supplier at the United Nations. Again, I shouldn't be sharing any of this stuff, but anyway, the natural thing to happen, and I'm not saying it has happened or I'm not promising that it will happen, but the natural thing that would happen would be that the next thing to be recognized at the UN would be the CSR plastic credit. But let's leave it to that before I say anything beyond what I should be saying. But it just shows you, I think, not only what's happening globally with these regulations that we can obviously read from the news and such, but the level of conversations that we're having as a company and the level of interest that we're getting from the governments and organizations and things of that sort is quite overwhelming. It's really. It's like if you would have told me 5 years ago that in 2025 we're going to be having this kind of conversations, I would have told you that you're out of your mind, that's not possible. But just a month ago, I was sitting in I don't know, I'm just going off the track here a little bit, but I just want to give one more example. We were sitting in a meeting table in Sri Lanka with one of the most powerful businessmen in the country, with whom we are now building a factory in Sri Lanka. And he told me in a meeting, he started asking about CSR, the plastic credit, how this could be, and his words were like this is absolutely amazing. I'm gonna bring this up with the president on my next meeting with him, and let's try to set up a meeting with you and him to talk about how the country of Sri Lanka, as a nation, as a government, could benefit by implementing CSR plastic credit in their country. That's the kind of conversations which are coming kind of a daily. And it's a bit unreal, but it just shows you the realities and the opportunities that we're dealing with. Because there is only one option. There's no plan B. And that option is that we have to solve the global plastic waste crisis. There is no option that all of these governments and organizations and institutions would just turn around tomorrow and say, you know what? Let's not waste time on this plastic thing. It's going to be fine. No, it's not going to happen. This is going to be solved, and it's going to be sorted out one way or another. And the reality is that if you wanted to solve the problem, which obviously everybody wants and everybody agrees with, there's only one effective way to do that. And that is to put monetary value on the plastic waste. And that is exactly what the plastic credits are there for. It's that simple. It's like, I was having a conversation with a person, a gentleman about this one maybe a month ago, and he actually told me, he started laughing and he said that, you understand, Jay, that the fact that you even have to explain this still means that we are in the very, very first steps of this development. Because a couple of years from now, it will be just clear as crystal. It will be obvious for everybody that, of course, it has to be done like this. And that's the direction where we are moving. And when you're going to look back a couple of years from now to these days here where you have to explain to people that, yeah, this is how it's going to be, and this is how it's, in your mind, it's becoming already a very, very clear picture. But there's a lot of people that are having to understand this for the first time. Well, my advice for you is to enjoy this moment. Because when it's obvious for everybody, then the early opportunities are probably already gone. And it's so, how would I say, empowering to know that we are at the right place, at the right time, involved in an opportunity that doesn't really rely on us. And when I say that, there's different opinions how you could judge those, or kind of like consider those words, but I see it as a very, very assuring and a great thing to understand that if all of us, like I've said before, if all of us just went home now and forgot this topic and never talked about this, it would still happen, right? So it is going to happen with or without us. Plastic waste will be sorted. And we have the opportunity to be part of this. We don't have to, but it's going to happen anyway. And we are so positive, so enthusiastic and energized and excited about being in this huge new revolution that I don't even really have the words to describe that. I just know that we're in the right place at the right time, and the opportunity that we have is like Andre Maronian said, it's not once in a lifetime. It's once. And that's it. And when this is solved, it is solved. And we are in the epicenter of this whole revolution. And it just gives us such an amazing opportunity to fulfill your desires and your goals in whichever area you want to achieve them from the economic, from the financial, from the capitalistic point of view, from the humanitarian, from the philanthropical point of view, or from the environmental point of view. That's, I guess, the best way.
Yes. Thank you. You know,
Yes.
what I say to my customers, yeah, very simple. When they say, wow, you really think it's going to happen? Well, when we look at it, who's going to pay to clean up this mess? It's not the people, and it's not the governments. It's got to be the companies, because they polluted in the first time and only them have money. So it's what I call common sense that the world will make companies pay to clean up the pollution they caused, and the plastic credits is the instrument to do that.
Exactly. That's it.
But we're in 2025, so we still have to explain. But the vision is there. The vision is there. And because it's common sense and that everybody needs that, and that the world needs Corsair, and actually probably other new Corsairs that also need to join and create their own thing there. So we can really all make a difference in the coming years for this crisis. Thank you so much for sharing again all of these nuggets. You were in the US recently. You can turn me down on this one, but I still would like to ask if you want to share something, because we saw the message that you had a very successful trip in the US.
Yes.
Is there anything you can tell us about it? And thank you again, right before when you gave conditions, saying that you're not announcing, but it can happen or not. Is there anything you'd like to share that you can share?
We are preparing for announcement regarding that. Has to do with the United States. So I'm not going to spoil the announcement at this stage. We hope to get it out still within this month, which I think will be great. But there is some great progress made there right now. And aside from the very sort of groundwork that we're doing, and we're working there right now on a daily basis, in a similar way, the discussions and the connections and the interest that we are seeing from all levels of government, going from local municipality level to different cities, states, and even to the US federal government is very, very inspiring. And there is a lot of work to be done in that country, as I mentioned earlier, with the 50 billion kilos of plastic waste generated on an annual basis. Americans have a strong habit, and I think it's a cultural thing, where the last decades and still today, a lot of things are built on sort of a single-use mentality. Somebody wrote somewhere that it comes from this decades-old fear of germs, which is probably one of the contributors, but single-use packaging and single-use concept is very, very much rooted into the mentality. And all of those things together obviously contribute into this massive amount of plastic waste that is generated there each year. So it's great to see that the governments are, and the levels of the administrations are very, very excited and welcoming and enthusiastic about us getting now operational there. But I'll leave the rest for the official announcement.
That's good enough for us. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In the network, we often talk about the gift that you have given us to create a network marketing structure, because you could have gone another way, not doing network marketing and just selling the plastic credits directly to companies. But you chose to do it this way. So we're grateful, because thanks to that, we can make a living, make a difference, and improve our lives. And at the same time, it was a maybe risky move to choose such an eclectic business model, which clearly has been successful. So I'd like to ask you, you answered that a few years ago, but we keep hearing it in the network. What led you to choose this business model, and how happy are you today with the results and our community?
Well, first of all, I'm very grateful. Like you said, you used the word, I am very grateful. And obviously I'm extremely happy of what has been achieved together and about the community that has been now built around the world. And, when we look at where we are today as a company and as a business and all these things that are happening around us and the expansion, even the fact that we are in this facility in Finland, or that we are in Finland to begin with, even if it's my home country, all of those things are there as a result of the network. And especially with our mission, which is to clean the planet from plastic pollution, I don't think there is any better, more efficient, more powerful, more faster way of spreading our message and to expand and to broaden our impact globally than by the use of the network marketing. And you said that the industry itself has gone through a lot of unfortunate developments over the years, and in many places, network marketing has a negative tone. It can be seen. The impression, at least the first impression for many, is that, I've heard all those stories and whatever. And to be honest, rightfully so. We can say that it doesn't have that, but it does. And that's just how the industry has been abused by bad actors all these years. Nevertheless, the reality is that if you have the right company, if you have the right mission, the right product or service, the fact that there is a human connection involved in recommending you to engage with something, which in our case has all those three different elements, the capitalism, the environmentalism, and the philanthropy included, is absolutely mind-blowing. And when I think about this, not to sound too much sort of business focused on this, but again, in my mind, it's an obvious thing in the future that Corsair Connect, which Amplivo will soon to be rebranded in, will become the biggest network marketing company in the world. Like, it's obvious. Like, you tell me one other product or service in the world today which is as emotionally driven that we're doing, that is perfect in its timing, which is out there solving a global massive problem that everybody, like we just spoke, with every levels of governments and institutions and world, everybody agrees needs to be solving. And on top of that, where we as a company are not only talking about it or maybe participating on it, we are out there in the front lines every single day making that all work happen. And it is truly, and I've said this before, but it's truly because of this community with like-minded people, all sharing our passion and sharing our mission, that we are where we are today as a company. And it is because of the network why we are confident that we're going to reach those targets like the 2040 target, because of the network. If it wasn't for the network, if we didn't have this community, Corsair as a company would be very, very different than what it is today. I don't think we would have, we wouldn't have the growth, we wouldn't have the opportunities and the connections and the expansion, the funding, all those things that we have in place today. Because, it's pretty obvious that's almost entirely generated through the network. And that's the reality. That's a fact. And, again, going back 4 years ago when we were considering of taking over the ownership of Amplivo, which at that time was a struggling, nearly bankrupted network marketing company, which was abandoned by its previous owners and management. And again, on the oil and gas and petrochemical industry, everybody told me not to do it. Like, seriously, on a personal note, saying, Jay, don't do it. This is bad. Like, you don't want to, just don't go that way. And obviously we did. And now all the same people are looking at it and saying, well, you guys pulled it off. And this was very unorthodox. We've never seen anybody do anything like this. But you guys did it. And the results speaks for themselves. The fact that we are, without a doubt, it's not even anymore like a speculation or any type of debate. There's no objection to this statement. We are the fastest growing company in the world, in the industry of advanced plastic recycling. I mean, by a mile for the next guys. And we're just getting started. And this is all happening because of the power of the community. And I wanted to also mention, I mean, what a wonderful video we saw there earlier. I mean, that was amazing. Great job, guys. I mean, the passion and the energy really transmitted through that. And I don't know if it's already shared online. If it's not, we'd love to obviously share that through all of our social media channels. I mean, that was fantastic. But that's the power of the community that we have. And I think, again, we're just getting started. Imagine where we are going to be 12 months, 24, 36 months from now, when we as a company keep on expanding and more people around the world are finding us. And I mentioned this at the gala as well, that we're now starting to get into a situation where companies are contacting us. Already existing networks with potentially thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even a million member, like in a case of iHub, they're calling us saying, hey, we want to join you guys. We love what you're doing. This is the greatest thing we've ever seen, and we want to be part of this. And I think next year, with all of this new development that's happening now, obviously with the brand alignment, which is going to be absolutely fantastic, from Amplivo now becoming Corsair Connect, with the new back office, which is going to also support our growth better, provide for you guys more tools to manage your business and build your business with all these payment solutions and everything else coming in place. I think we're going to be really gearing up for a massive global growth. And that's going to impact everything that we do. And that's all coming because of the network and because of the global community that we built. I mean, I guess that says that I'm really happy.
For me, it answers all the question. What we are convinced that the history of Corsair was made possible thanks to the network, that we are extremely happy with the results. You are, we are, everybody's. And that this idea of the network has been opening doors for Corsair everywhere is a third reason why it makes sense for you guys to do network marketing. And Absolutely. Yet we still have people saying, they're going to ditch the network once they're big enough. What would you say to someone?
That would be completely, I mean, first of all, I can tell you, there is no intention of that. Why would we? I mean, the community is the beauty of everything that we're building. And also the thing is that purely from the business point of view, even if we're getting into a situation which is now becoming more and more reality, where the funding of these new projects is no longer depending on the revenue generated from the network. Why would anybody want to remove themselves or disassociate themselves from this global community that is helping to push the company forward? If you think about it purely from the business point, it doesn't make any sense, right? And the fact that the opportunities and the energy and the synergy and everything else that is created by having a global community of like-minded people coming together and working together is absolutely amazing. And, you know, we haven't engaged on those areas much because we wanted to focus on the plastic. But once we go further, let's say a year or two, you also know that we have other areas that we want to begin working as well, which is pollution in the water, pollution in the air. There's a lot of work to be done when we are looking at, for example, your vision board that you kindly shared. That those images show a image and picture of a clean world. And that goes into all areas, into clean water, clean environment in general, and clean air to breathe. And those are the areas where we as a company want to expand in the future. And that's where we want to engage the community as well. And once we've become the largest contributor, the most impactful contributor in solving the plastic waste crisis, then let's go and do the same for water pollution and air pollution. And we'll do it as a community.
And that's why for me it's a conscious business.
Absolutely.
Which is so dear to my heart, because it's about depollution, global depollution. And Haysam would also add that on top of the depollution of the environment, what else are we doing, Haysam?
Well, we're depolluting ourselves, of course, from all the limiting beliefs, all the false beliefs, all the fears, all the limiting mindsets that are keeping us entrapped into this rat race and into this vicious circle that has brought us to the state we're in. That's why I always say, Jussi, I'll tell you here. For me, you are like Steve Jobs with his marketing and his ambition in business, and Mahatma Gandhi combined into one Messiah, basically, for the new worlds, which is shifting the paradigm for humanity from pollution to the solution, from waste to wealth, from trash to this cash that most of humanity is running after, and which is the reason why when companies want to cash in, they listen. And when they want to make sure that they're not going to be losing, they listen. And this is why we are currently changing the world, one depollution at a time, because we are starting with ourselves and changing our limiting beliefs. And we're doing it thanks to this business. So it's pretty incredible. It's never been made. And we are making history together.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much for your kind words. I really appreciate that. And I love what you said at the Vision Gala about the mind pollution. And that is definitely something that we want to be helping to reduce in the world as well, and let people to see their true potential and the opportunities that are there for personal growth in different areas of their lives.
Yes. Let's conclude with something we've been sharing in the network, Jay. Let me know if that resonates for you. We believe the perfect timing is now to prepare for the momentum. The momentum, I remind everybody what it is. It's that S curve. It's when suddenly all the pieces are in place for exponential scaling. And when we look at time, one could say, you didn't see this before, Jay, so I hope you agree with that. That's of my making. 2020 concept, 2021 proof is working, oil is coming out, plastic credit is created, available on the market, 2022, 2023, first announcements, oil companies are really getting in business with us, network is growing, Finland, wow, Finland, what a hard country to make a project in, is announced, Shell is announced, things are building up. And we like to share this idea of concentration. Concentration is a phase where all the pieces are solidifying, crystallizing for takeoff. Yeah. Takeoff is the momentum. And then market will... Exactly. So why I created this recently is because what I heard you guys working on is the symptom of concentration. A new back office, all integrated with AI. So Wayne said, Corsair Connect brand, compensation plan updates, Corsair Pay, that you guys are buying a bank, Corsair Capital, going onto the stock markets, opening partially the capital, and then the buyback starting stronger and stronger next year, plus ever increasing regulations. To me, that is the symptom that 2026 will be concentration, which means 2027 will be the takeoff, which means that for all of us, now is the time, because momentum is a sudden shift in adoption. Suddenly, instead of getting 80% no's, we're getting 80% yes. Everybody wants to jump in. Business grows faster than we can cope. Excitement is ever growing, and Jay, I can't wait to see you during that time, because your vision and your excitement is going to be on steroids. And millionaires are made here, basically. I mean, the millionaires that will be made in the momentum are those who are here in this call today. Because right now you have the opportunity to position yourself. And that will
Exactly.
last a long time. We will discuss later why. But basically, I just wanted to get to that point. Build your team now, 2025, 2027. Because when that time of takeoff has started, things will get so busy. We won't have, like we have now, the time to create the systems, the trainings, go all together. Business is going to go out of hand, which is a very good thing. Like Elliot told me, when you lose track of how fast your team is growing, it's good. Jay, what do you think of what I just showed?
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Wonderful. Would you like to give us a word of closing, please? Maybe also address specifically to the newcomers, the one who just arrived and for the first time are connecting with you.
Well, I saw that somebody mentioned there, I think there was a comment there that somebody who started today. Well, congratulations. You've joined at a very good time. This is probably the best time to join. The other best time was yesterday. But for someone to coming in here today, you are coming to a business and to a community, to a company that is now already, as you said, very well said, Thomas, it's already established. There's a lot of confidence. I mean, the ones of you who have been with us over the last few years, you've gone through all the hard work and the opposition and the questionable and everything that was there when we were just proving that concept and getting that sort of establishment and the foundation built. Somebody who comes in today will see the business and our operations and everything that we are and we represent in a very different way. And sometimes, I've also had to occasionally refresh the view of how we look at the business that we are dealing with. And having people like, I'm just going to use as an example, Andre Maronian from the United States, who has been involved with the network marketing industry for decades. For a guy like that to come in and look at and say, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. This is amazing. And it's like, I want to come back from retirement to get back on this just because this has to be my last run. Very much the similar thing like Elliot did. So, we have truly already now built something magnificent. And the fact that we no longer have to fight to prove ourselves, but instead we can just simply show the results that we've created over the years. And we can welcome new members into a foundation and into a concept, into a company where things are now all in place. And with the new improvements, they're going to be just getting better. I think, again, in the next 30 days, when a lot of these things that you mentioned with the new branding, the back office, the payment system, all these things are coming into play, it's going to make this business even easier for the new people to start. So if you are here as someone who's just listening in, or you have recently just started the business, like joining in today, I want to welcome you. You have definitely come to the right place. You have definitely come to the right group and to the right community that shares most probably the same kind of values that you have if you have decided to associate yourself with our community. So that being said, I think we have an amazing end of the year ahead of us. You spoke about the promotion, and I think this is going to, for some of the people, this is going to be really potentially even life-changing about how the next few weeks are going to play out. But also the benefit that we are providing for our customers is going to be amazing. Because when we come to the end of this allocation period of CSR 25, then that's it. There's not going to be any more of that added. And in the beginning of next year, in January, we'll be able to publicize and to all look back and say, this is how many CSR 25s will ever be in existence. And from that moment onwards, that total number is going to start shrinking every single day, becoming smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And if those targets and the numbers that we spoke before, where we see ourselves being in the year 2030, 2040, even 12 months from now, if we get even, let's say, even close to some of those targets, if even a fraction of those targets materialize, that's going to cause amazing changes in the lives of the people that have engaged, for example, this year with CSR 25 and our plastic waste removal service. Just if we reach a fraction of those. But imagine if we make it. What if we succeed on those? That's a pretty inspiring sight. But on closing here, and I know that we've gone already more than an hour here, and I thank you guys also for having me on your call. I really appreciate that. This has been a fantastic year, and again, we've stabilized things, and as you so eloquently displayed in the presentation, I think the pieces of the puzzle are now either already in place or just about to lock into place for that massive growth. And I can see us growing exponentially again during next year. And as we've mentioned many times during this call already, the best part is that we're just getting started. We're just scratching the surface. This is still the pioneer stage. We started talking about plastic credits before people knew that concept even existed. Today, people understand the concept, but they still are very new to the concept. That's the situation where we are right now. That's the stage of things where we are right now. It's like having to explain people that there is this thing, like was a few years back, there is this thing called the blockchain, where the information is no longer in one database, but it's in thousands of databases at thousands of devices at the same time, and that makes it more transparent and trustworthy. And people were like, yeah, that sounds interesting. Yeah, this might be something for the future. That's where we are right now. You're having to explain the concept of plastic credit to people. It's like having to explain Bitcoin in 2012, 13, something like that, when the concept of blockchain was just becoming new concept for so many people. And now look at where we are. Again, this is not a sprint. It's not a 100-meter quick run. It is a marathon. And because of that, it's also not maybe for everybody. Not everybody's built or meant or destined to have also the patience and the commitment to be involved in something long term. But what I've learned by being now about 25 years a full-time entrepreneur, that if you actually want to build anything with value, you need to have commitment, you need to have long-term thinking, you need to have consistency, you need to have the focus, and you need to have the discipline to continue doing what you're building. That's the only way of building true value. And I think when we look back on what we have built and what we are, the way that we're building the business, it reflects and includes all of those areas. So, thank you guys. It's great to see you. I love the energy. And it's great to see so many of you guys that we just had a pleasure of spending time here in Thailand. And I hope to see all of you. You said about half of the people here were at the Vision Event Week this year. Well, let's expect that all of you guys will be there during next year. So thank you very much again, Thomas and Heysam and everybody who organized this call today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Give some love to Jussi in the chat, please. Well, you heard it.
There's a lot of love already. It's overwhelming.
It's
Thank
popping
you, guys.
hearts on my screen. I don't know if you see that.
Yes, I do.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So, guys, here you have it. That's why we are actors of change. Thank you, Jeff, for touching upon this. It may not be for everybody. It's still early. It's for pioneers, for visionaries. It really required hard work to be successful, but the success we may encounter is beyond everything we can dream of, especially if we think 10 years, 15 years from now. And I hope that most of you will still be here with us in 5 years and in 10 years, and will be the ones testifying that, hey, they told me at the beginning not to give up. I didn't give up, and they were right, because I believed in myself and I believed in the company. And that's what we're here to do, believing in a brighter future. So we are actors of change, not followers of change. We're here to make a difference. And that's why we unite and we do it together. So thank you for being part of this movement. Thank you for being part of Corsair Group, Corsair Connect, and this beautiful humanity. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Jeff, for your time. Let's do some wonders together for the end of this year.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.